Hello, morning. All right, so to cover the wide landscape of web application and API security threats, Cloudflare releases a report every year, right? So it's mainly from data aggregated from our platform, from our AppSec and network security products. So thinking about advanced DDoS, WAF, API gateway, those sorts of things, right? But this year, we've also added some data from third-party sources as well. So I hope you find this useful. We're going to go into key findings. I'll tell you a bit about Cloudflare because it's important for me to set context. We dive a little bit into the data. We don't have so much time for that, unfortunately, today. And then some recommendations at the end as well, all right? All right, so let's take a look at the challenges that modern organizations face today. There's 6 of these. The first is DDoS, right? So this is an oldie but a goodie. People have been having DDoS attacks ever since the internet was born. But this year, from our report, it still remains one of the most used ways to bring organizations down. The second is rapid CV exploitation. So typically, you talk about 0 days. Well, at Cloudflare, we're now seeing it as 0 hours, really. The third thing is trust in third-party code. A lot of you here are aware that PCI DSS version 4 is around the corner. Many organizations are not really, keeping an eye on how many third-party scripts are running on the websites. The fourth is an increasing number of bots on the internet are malicious, 93% at our last count. 5 is about cookie consent. It's an issue with privacy risks. And the sixth is one of the largest, actually, which is the outdated approaches that many organizations have to API security, all right? So in April of this year, we carried out a survey over 4,000 security decision makers across a variety of industries, so financial services, government, IT, tourism, retail, those sorts of orgs. Ranging in size, this company ranges in size from 250 to 2,500 employees. And the purpose of that survey was to, carry out questions around, cybersecurity outcomes. How prepared are organizations? What are they experiencing? What's top of mind? And what are they doing about it, right? And 2 key highlights from that. First is 40% of all organizations we spoke to had experienced an attack in the last year. And then 72% experienced an attack in the last 2. Now, to many of you in this room, you're wondering, yeah, so what, right? These are typical of any modern security organization. Attacks on the internet are expected. You're expected to suffer some form of attack or breach if you're online, right? But some numbers underneath that are the fact that these numbers are increasing for organizations. So it's not just a single attack, it's repeated attacks, right? So 84% of the organizations we spoke to had seen repeated attacks in the last 2 years. And we also noticed as well that 3 countries, 3 markets of the 13 we carried out a survey in had seen more than others. So the United Kingdom, no surprise there, from Sarah's talk earlier, 3rd in the world, also top in Europe. Second to that was Spain, and the 3rd was Sweden. The least was Belgium, with 22% of incidents, and then Italy as well, right? So it's a nice spread. A bit about Cloudflare to understand a bit more about the data I'm going to share with you where it comes from, right? So Cloudflare is a company that has invested in an approach, which is the world's first connectivity cloud. What we do in our Cloudflare is to connect anything to anything. We call it the connectivity cloud, right? So users to networks, you can build on Cloudflare, you can build full stack APIs out on Cloudflare if you wish to. You can connect users to resources inside your network. You can connect your employees to SaaS apps. We are basically the world's first way to connect anything to anything that exists on the internet. How have we done this? By building out a giant network. All the blue dots you see on screen there are Cloudflare data centers. The light blue lines are our network backbone. We are present in over 330 cities. The unique thing about Cloudflare and the architecture is the fact that every single one of those blue dots you have on screen runs every single service we have, right? So if you're in Cape Town, as an example, your app services run in Cape Town, network services, zero trust services, your email security services, everything we do runs everywhere. And this gives us huge insight into what happens across the internet, right? So how we use this data Some of the things we do, 20% of all web traffic runs on our platform. That's not just traditional enterprise traffic, but traffic from small-sized companies all the way to largest Fortune 500 companies. Right? Cloudflare is also one of the operators of one of the world's largest public resolvers, 1.1.1.1, if you're familiar with those IPs. We also carry out inbox crawling for all users of our email security platform, and we do crawl the entire web often as well. Cloudflare also does operate one of the world's largest CC servers, so we have visibility into certificates as they are signed as well. So more insight there. And then we are, of course, apart from the first-party data that we have, we, of course, partnered with other premium feed providers, so Avira, CrowdStrike, and the likes of which you can see there as well. What we do with all this data is to feed it into different models, right? So we run that into attack analysis, HTTP request data analysis. We see over 56 million HTTP requests every second. Of course, our DNS queries, and we have a threat research team as well. And all that data feeds into our products, so that helps us to give out more refined services to our customers. We carry out investigations for our customers, and of course, we provide reports, such as the one I'm giving you today, for free to anyone as well. All right, that's about Cloudflare. So some of the data I'm going to share with you. The first is about the rapid increase in the volume of mitigated traffic that we have seen on our platform. Right, so you can see in September there was a spike in mitigated traffic, and in January this year there was a spike in mitigated traffic. Of course, if there's a spike in mitigated traffic, it means there's a spike in the increase of attacks as well. Right? One anomaly about this is that typically around Christmas time, we used to tend to see an increase in traffic, but this year there was a drop at Christmas, Black Friday, these sorts of things. We see a drop in attacks. We're not quite sure why. Attacks are rather happening at periods that are unexpected, such as January this year. A lot of organizations did experience this sort of DDoS attacks or breaches, especially at the start of the year. I spoke about DDoS as the number one attack vector we have seen on our network, and these numbers will support that fact, right? So those are the attack numbers we've seen typically on our network over the years, and last year that blew it out the window, right? 201 million requests per second. That was as a result of an attack dubbed the rapid reset attack, for those of you who were following. It's basically an exploit of the HTTP2 protocol. A way to improve performance on the internet was turned into an attack vector. Right? So it's something that we have tracked very closely. It was 3 times larger than the size of any attack we had ever seen. Every quarter, Cloudflare releases a DDoS threat report. We tell organizations what are the top industries that suffer attacks. We do that every quarter, but this is for the last year. So if your industry is in this list, something to be aware of. So gaming and gambling, of course, that's where the money is. IT and internet, I think earlier Sarah did talk about the supply chain issues with IT and internet companies being attacked. You can see that from our data as well, cryptocurrency, and it goes all the way down to manufacturing as well. If you're not on this list, it doesn't mean you should celebrate, of course. You might be number 11, so something to be aware of. And spreading across continents, you can see in Africa it's IT and internet again, gaming and gambling in Europe. And then, interestingly, in South America, it's farming, so, down with food and that sort of thing. But it's something to be aware of as well, where attackers are, emphasizing on particular industries. A bit closer to home, looking at the UK specifically, we do see in network layer attack traffic, an over 2,000% rise in network layer attacks, specifically for the UK. And then an attack distribution, source locations where application attacks come from, China, US, and Vietnam, top 3. Of course, it doesn't mean that these countries themselves are attacking industries in the UK. It means that we are seeing the sources from those countries, all right? Something to be aware of. I did mention about bot traffic earlier. 31% of all traffic we see at the application level at Cloudflare is bot traffic. Of course, that also includes good bots, your Google bots and Bing, those sorts of things. But 93% of all bots that we see are malicious. So something to keep an eye on. It's growing. So it's been a third roughly for the last 3 years. but it's gone up 2%. It used to be 29% 2 years ago, but now it's at 31%. So that also is a trend that we've noticed. Supply chain and client-side risks. PCI DSS is around the corner, I said at the outset. It's actually March 31st, so really around the corner. And this is the first time we've carried out this research for client-side security. And you can see the numbers on screen, and a 47 average third-party scripts on enterprise websites, and 49 average external connections to enterprise websites. Organizations really need to keep an eye on what their websites are connecting to, because you'll be held liable, of course, if something does go wrong. APIs. So 58% of all traffic we see on our platform is API traffic. A lot of other organizations will tell you, or vendors will tell you that this is a growing trend. APIs, of course, are here to stay. They're a business enabler after all. And the important thing to notice about this API traffic is the 33% number, which is a lot of security organizations are not aware how many API endpoints that they have, right? This is a growing trend. That number used to be 30, it's gone to 33%. You're thinking in a year where we have, more familiarity with our top 10 API threats, more organizations should be aware, but that number is a bit worrying, right? So something for you to keep an eye on if you're in charge of your security at your industries, right? And the top 3 industries with API attacks are crypto, tech, and insurance. CVs, 0 days are 0 hours at Cloudflare now. We have seen it took 22 minutes from the JetBrains publicly disclosing a CV and having a POC for that, so for us to see the first instance of it being exploited on our platform, right? So last year, 0 days were up by 50%, and there were 29,000 UCVs disclosed in 2023. So organizations will need to respond faster. Something for you guys to keep an eye on. And it wouldn't be a tech conference without some chat around AI or LLMs. They are here to stay after all. They're a business enabler. They're changing the way organizations work. Whether or not it's a public LLM within your company, or it's private, or it's a product one, the fact of the matter is that organizations are using this. And 56% of our employees are directly using AIs, either to automate or to augment what they're doing today, right? So the risks obviously are palpable. You have sensitive data being taken out of your network, either maliciously or inadvertently. You also have issues with models being poisoned as well from the outside. All right, so I know I'm almost out of time. A few recommendations to leave you with. The first is about implementing modern DDoS practices. As I said, it's an oldie but a goodie. It's important to keep an eye on your adaptive DDoS protections and the like. Adopt a multi-pronged approach, so use smarter ways to protect against the threats I've gone through. Phishing controls are really important. Think about multi-channel phishing exposure, your QR codes, and SMS and emails and the like. Of course, API maturity should be measured over time. That's also quite important. And of course, you should get involved in large language model projects super early as well. If you want full report, scan the QR code. You shouldn't be scared of scanning QR codes, actually. If you are, speak to your IT team. And if you want to connect, QR code on the right-hand side. Thank you. Cheers.